Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the invisible security systems that guard our digital lives. And we're going to do it by looking at what happens when they go catastrophically wrong, all through the story of one single massive failure.
Okay, let's just dive right in. We're not going to start with boring definitions. Nope. We're starting at a digital crime scene. We're talking about a large hospital that had, well, let's just say it was a really, really bad day.
So I want you to picture this. A massive database just brimming with the most sensitive information imaginable. We're talking patient records. And this isn't just names and phone numbers. It's medical histories, private diagnoses, things you only tell your doctor, stuff that absolutely has to be locked down tight. And even though this hospital had strong encryption, they had what looked like really solid security policies, someone who shouldn't have been there got in. They gained access to that database, and just like that, all of that private information was completely exposed.
Now, here's the real kicker. The whole disaster, the entire breach, it didn't start with some elite hacker smashing through digital walls. It started with a single password from one employee who got tricked by a phishing attack. That's it. One password.
And that's the big question, right? How can one simple mistake completely unravel an entire multi-million-dollar security system? To figure that out, we need to peel back the layers of defense that are supposed to stop this from ever happening and see exactly where things fell apart. All right, so the very first barrier anyone, whether you're a legitimate user or an attacker, has to get past is proving who they are. In the tech world, we call this authentication. You can think of it as the digital bouncer at the front door of the club. And authentication is really just a simple two-step dance. First step is identification. You walk up to the door and you say who you are, like, hey, my username is J. Smith. Then comes verification. The system looks at you and says, oh yeah? Prove it. And that's when you have to provide your secret handshake.
And when it comes to proving it, there are really only three fundamental ways. It's either based on something you know, like a password, something you have, like your phone or a little security key, or something you are, like your fingerprint or your face. In our hospital breach, the attacker only needed to steal the weakest kind, a knowledge factor. That one password became the single point of failure for the entire system.
So getting past the bouncer at the front door is one thing, but that doesn't mean you have the run of the whole house, right? What are you actually allowed to do once you're inside? Well, that's where our second big concept comes in. Authorization. This whole process is managed by something called access control. Just think of it like the internal rulebook for the building. It spells out exactly who can do what and where they can do it. It's not just about getting in the front door, it's about which other doors you're allowed to open. And this right here is the really critical detail from the investigation. The attacker got in using the password of a pretty low-level employee, someone with very limited access. But once they were inside, they found a little flaw, a crack in the system that let them basically promote themselves to a super user with keys to every single room. This is a classic, scary move called privilege escalation. Now, to stop that exact thing from happening, good security is built on one simple but incredibly powerful idea, the principle of least privilege. It means you only give each person the absolute bare minimum set of keys they need to do their job. Nothing more. So how do big organizations actually write these rulebooks? How do they decide who gets which keys? Well, it turns out there are a few different philosophies or models for setting up these rules. You can almost see the evolution of security thinking here. It started with simple models based on just who you are. Then came these super rigid systems. You see them a lot in government, based on security clearances. But today, most places use way more dynamic models. So let's focus on the two big ones you'll see everywhere, role-based and attribute-based control. To put it really simply, role-based access control, or RBAC, just asks, what's your job title? If you're in the nurse group, you get all the nurse permissions. Easy. But attribute-based access control, or ABAC, is way smarter. It asks a bunch of questions, like, okay, who are you, what are you trying to get into, where are you, and what time is it right now? And that flexibility is just incredibly powerful. The system can look at who you are, what you're trying to access, and the whole environment around the request. So, for example, with an ABAC policy, a doctor might actually be denied access to patient records, even with the right password, if they're trying to log in from a sketchy Wi-Fi network at 3 in the morning. The context is just all wrong. Okay, but this brings up a huge question. I mean, How on earth does a giant organization like our hospital manage all of these different roles and rules and attributes for thousands and thousands of employees? It sounds like a nightmare. Well, they do it with something called Identity and Access Management, or IAM for short. You can think of IAM as the central command center for all digital identities. It's the system that makes sure the right people get the right access to the right stuff at the right times and for all the right reasons. And you can even take this a step further. We've all been there, right? The pain of creating yet another username and password for every single website you visit. Federated identity is the fix for that. It basically creates a web of trust between different organizations so you can use one secure login from work to get into a bunch of different partner services. And this whole process is what makes the magic of single sign-on, or SSO, happen. Think about it. You try to log into some other website, and it bounces you back to your own company's login page. Once you prove who you are there, your company sends a secure little thumbs up back to that other website, and boom, you're in. You only have to prove who you are once to the one system that knows you best. Okay, so let's just zoom out for a second. We've got sophisticated authentication, we've got detailed authorization, we've got these complex control models like ABAC, we've got powerful identity management. We've come full circle. Which brings us right back to the original question. With all of that in place, why did the hospital breach still happen? Because the breach didn't start with a technology problem. It wasn't a flaw in the code or a bug in the firewall. It started with a human problem. An employee got tricked by a really convincing fake email into just giving away their password. And that right there is the biggest lesson from this whole story. We can build these incredible, complex layers of technology to protect our systems, but at the end of the day, all that technology often can't protect us from ourselves. So that's really something to think about. As we build our digital walls taller and stronger, maybe the easiest way in isn't to try and knock them down, but to just find someone on the inside and convince them to open the door for you. Thanks for watching this explainer.